Hey, shalom, shalom. All right, before I get started with this lesson today, all right, I just want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakhakwadash. Double honors into the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and salutations unto the elect. All right, and in today's lesson, I'm just going to be going into, all right, this article right here and another article right here. All right, and it's just basically highlighting, all right, the growing tensions, all right, between, all right, the beast, all right, between the U.S. and the EU, all right, and what we're seeing here, all right, is prophecy, all right, of the Holy Scriptures playing out before our eyes. We see the build up, all right, to the prophecy where, all right, the 10 horns which are upon the beast, all right, they're going to hate the whore and burn her with fire, all right, and we're seeing, all right, the build up to this prophecy, man, and it's beautiful to see. All right. Matter of fact, before I get into these articles, let's get Habakkuk. All right. Let's see. Habakkuk 2, and we'll get straight to the point. All right. Habakkuk 2 and 3. It reads, for the vision. All right. And what is the vision? The vision is the prophecy. All right. The prophecies. All right. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Right. The Heavenly Father has a set, all right, time, all right, for the vision or the prophecies to take place. Okay. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, meaning what? It shall come to pass. All right, when it says it shall speak, it means to come to pass. It says, and not lie, right? Because the Lord is not a man that he shall lie. If he says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Okay? It says, and it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, which means to delay, wait for it. All right, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Because so at the end of the day, all right, prophecy is going to come to pass, all right, whether you like it or not. All right, we're seeing the build up, all right, to the prophecy written in Revelation 17, Lord willing, we get into that. All right, we're seeing the prophecy, all right, of the 10 horns that are upon the beast. They're going to hate the whore, all right, with the whore being America. All right, they're going to burn her with fire. Eventually, all right, the NATO and the EU is going to turn, all right, against this whore, America, man. All right, we're seeing a build up to it as we're going to get into in these articles. All right, it's basically highlighting, all right, the growing tensions, all right, between the U.S. All right, and the EU. So let's get into this article. It reads, Trump says a decaying Europe is being led by weak people. So Trump is basically talking shit against, all right, the EU, Europe. Let's get into it. It says, Donald Trump has described Western Europe as a group of decaying nations that is being led by weak leaders. An interview with Politico, the U.S. president accused the governments of Western Europe of mishandling migration and failing to help in the Ukraine conflict. He described Western Europe's political class as ineffective and overly constrained by what he called political correctness. All right, let's go scroll down. It says, asked about the role of Western Europe in the Ukraine peace talks, Trump said its leaders talk too much, adding that will, if they still believe Kiev can win, they are free to keep supporting it for as long as they want. He insisted he had no real enemies in Europe and was on friendly terms with most of his leaders, but said he knew the good leaders, the bad leaders, the smart ones, and the stupid ones. All right, and this is going into prophecy too, and it's like in Daniel the 7th chapter. All right, where it's going into his looks is more stout than his fellows. All right, you got these American Edomites. They're more proud than their own Edomite people, man. You know, the people in Europe, because those people in Europe, they're Edomites too. All right, so they're boasting against their own people. All right, it says you got some real stupid ones too, Trump said. All right, and let's see. It says Trump argued that European migration policies are pushing some states towards collapse. If it keeps going the way it's going, Europe will not be, in my opinion, many of those countries will not be viable countries any longer. Right? He's basically saying Europe going to fall. All right, he's going to collapse. He said their immigration policy is a disaster. What they're doing with immigration is a disaster. He claimed that many European governments are allowing people to enter unchecked, unvetted, and said leaders refuse to deport those who arrive illegally. You know, so basically Trump is talking shit, man. All right, he's basically being more stout than his fellows. All right, as prophecy says in Daniel the seventh chapter. Okay, so let's get to this other article. All right, and this is basically, all right, the European leaders' all right response, to Trump's weak criticism. As you can see here, European leaders defend continent amid Trump's weak criticism. All right. It says President Trump labels the EU as weak and incompetent on migration in Ukraine, claiming countries like Britain, France, Germany are being destroyed by mass migration. He doubles down on this nationalist he doubles down on his nationalist America First stance, favoring bilateral deals over EU multilateralism. All right. Well, let's get to the point. Let's see what we can scroll. Just skim through it. Let's see. All right, European Union. I'm right here. All right, leaders pushed back sharply against U.S. President Donald Trump recent remarks, branding the European Union as weak and incapable of managing migration or the war in Ukraine. All right. Let's see. The transatlantic rift deepened as top EU officials. Right. So this is the EU. All right. The 10 horns on the beast is the EU, man. All right. So it says the pit deepened as top EU officials defended their governance while Trump doubled down on his critique, framing Europe as a continent in decline due to uncontrolled migration and ineffective leadership. So you see, all right, basically, all right, Trump talking shit. All right, you got the EU talking shit back. All right, you got the EU citizens, all right, over there in the UK and all them. All right, they look down. All right, they have a negative opinion of Americans over here, especially Trump. All right, and the same thing with Americans over here. They have a bad opinion of UK people. So we see the division, all right, within Esau Edom's kingdom, man. All right, we see the tensions growing, all right, between the beasts. All right, it says in a recent interview with Politico, Trump dismissed European leaders as incompetent, particularly on migration and security. I think they're weak, he said. I think they don't know what to do. Europe doesn't know what to do. All right. So, and that was pretty much it. I got to the point. All right. So again, I just want to highlight prophecy, man. All right, because us believers, we're seeing prophecy play out, man, and it's very beautiful to see. All right, the growing tensions between the U.S. and the EU's. All right, the whore, all right, and the beast, the 10 horns on the beast. Okay, so let's get into prophecy, man. Let's get Revelation 17. What I wanted to get. All right, let's get Revelation 17. Let's see, and verse 14. Let's see. We'll start at the point. Revelation 17 and 15, it reads, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, right, and the whore being America, all right, that sitteth, all right, upon the waters, which means, all right, the many, all right, multitudes of nations, as we, well, it says it right here, slack it. It says, where the whore sitteth are the peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, right? So this whore will be ruling, all right, and will be over all the nations of the earth, all right, and over the people. Verse 16, it says, and the 10 horns, right, the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, right? They're going to hate America, all right, and we're seeing the buildup of it. All right, there's going to come a point in time, all right, very, very soon, where, all right, these European nations, they're going to say they had enough out of America, and they're going to turn on America. And guess what? We're going to keep reading. These shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So at the end of the day, these EU nations are going to turn against America and shoot missiles on her and burn her, man. All right, along with America's enemies, man. You see, we're seeing prophecy. We're seeing the tensions because Trump is basically disrespecting these European leaders. They're not going to stand for it. All right, because prophecy says so. Prophecy says, all right, the EU is going to turn, all right, on America, man. All right, and again, we're seeing the buildup of it. We're seeing the tensions grow, all right, between U.S., all right, and EU. All right, very beautiful to see. Verse 17, for the Most High have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right, so that was pretty much it, man. All right, let's get Daniel. All right, because I was spoke on this. Matter of fact, let's get Obadiah before I get into it. Let's get Obadiah. All right, let's get Obadiah 1, and I'm going to get this in the NLT. All right, it says, and this is speaking, this whole chapter is speaking on Esau, Edom. All right, which, all right, NATO and the EU, all right, the whole beast system is all ruled by Edomites, all right, the so-called white men today. Okay, so it says, and with along with the woman riding on top of that beast, all right, they're all Edomite, ruled nations, all right, and they will be ruling over the entire world. All right, Edomites, the so-called white men today. Okay, so let's get Obadiah. All right, 1. And we're going to get it, let's see. Verse 7, I'm going to read it in the NLT. Obadiah 1 and 7 NLT. All your allies, right, is not, all right, the European Union, all right, the EU, all right, America's allies. All right, guess what? It says, all your allies will turn against you. Speaking on Edom. All right, it's mainly here in America, man. You Edomites here in America. All right, they're going to turn against America. And they will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it, right? So we see the EU, they're beginning to basically separate from the beast. I mean, the Slacky, they're beginning to separate from America, man. All right, and they're plotting, and they're going to they're plotting, all right, and they're going behind the back of America, all right, to basically betray America in the end. All right, and this is prophecy, man. This is going to happen. All right. So what is that? Let's get Daniel. Okay. This is Daniel. It's like I'm the wrong. Daniel 7. All right, and verse 20. All right. It reads Daniel 7 and 20. It says, in the 10 horns that were in his head, all right, the EU, which the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things. All right, speaking of America, all right, these American Edomites, whose look was more stout than his fellows. All right. All right. So let's read that one more time. All right, we're gonna go back and break it down. All right. Daniel 7 and 20. It says, in the 10 horns that were in his head, all right, again, the EU, and of the other which came, and before whom 3 fell. And these 3, all right, these 3 that fell is the French, the English, and the Spanish. All right. And it says, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things. Right. And that's speaking of, all right, these American Edomites, man. All right. It says, whose look was more stout than his fellows. You go into that word stout. Stout is proud, all right, boastful. All right. And that's the American Edomites today, especially Trump. All right. He boasts himself up. All right. Basically as if they're better, all right, than their fellows, than their other Edomite, all right, fellows, man. You see, as you see here, he said, look, President Donald Trump labels the EU as weak and incompetent on migration in Ukraine. All right, claiming countries like Britain, France, and Germany are being destroyed by mass migration. He doubles down on his nationalist America First stance, right, that proud, all right, American boastful spirit, favoring bilateral deals over EU multilateralism. All right, and soon the EU isn't going to stand for this any longer, and they're going to separate from this whore, all right, from America, man. All right, they're going to burn her with fire, as prophecy says in Revelation, the 17th chapter. Okay, so again, this is all prophecy. All right, Revelation 17, Daniel 7, what I got right here. All right, Obadiah, all prophecy. We're seeing the buildup, all right, of the prophecy getting ready to come to pass, man. Okay, the growing tensions, all right, between, all right, the U.S. and EU, all right, between in the beast, man. All right, the division in the beast. Let's get Matthew, and we'll probably end it there. All right, because Yahushua spoke, great words of wisdom, all right, in this chapter. All right, Matthew 12, In verse 25. All right. It reads, and Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. Right. So here it is. America or an EU, they're supposed to be allies. They're supposed to be friends. But guess what? It's divided. All right, you have America talking shit against the EU, and it's further creating that rift between the NATO and the EU. Well, not NATO and the EU, America and the EU. You see, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. So this is just spelling the end, of Esau Edom's kingdom, man. All right, they're all divided. They can't agree on nothing. All right, you think that's going to happen in the kingdom of heaven when the Israelites are ruling? No. All right, this is spelling the downfall of Esau Edom's kingdom, man. All right. Of course, a kingdom, if it's divided against itself, it's not going to stand. All right. As it says here, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And that's what's going to happen to this Edomite empire, man. This Edomite rulership is going to be brought to desolation. It says, in every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. All right. Plain and simple. All right. And the house of the Edomites are divided, man. All right. And they're not going to stand. They're going to fall. Okay. So that was pretty much it, man. All right. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Going back again. All right. In this tab right here. Yeah, Trump says a decaying Europe is being led by weak people. All right. And this one right here. All right. European leaders defend continent amid Trump's weak criticism. So the EU, they heard about this. They heard what Trump said about them. You see, and it's only allowing this division to grow even more and more. All right, because you had Scott Ritter, he was talking shit, saying, look, we made you European, we made you Europe, we made you. You see, but that's just basically that stoutful speaking of these American Edomites, man. But that was pretty much it, man. Hopefully this lesson was edifying and that it was, straight to the point, and that brothers out there and sisters can be edified, in the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. But with that, just want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and salutations unto the elect. Shalom.